close. We are closing out the second week of quarter three, and we've had some interesting updates in the past 3 hours or 4 hours since the market opened. One of them happening literally 10 minutes ago. I know some of these stocks are going red, even though they were super green when the market opened, and there's a reason for that. Some of them have specific reasons, like some of the fintechs, and some of them have a more macro reason. This reason, I don't really know if it's bullish or bearish. I'm leaning more towards bearish, but it's definitely interpreted as bullish. And it broke 10 minutes ago, right before getting into the market close. Here it is. The the chairman of the board of Fannie and Freddie Mae put out this statement, quote, "I'm encouraged by reports that Jerome Powell is considering resigning. I think this will be the right direction for America, and the economy will boom." Now, I have not read any reports, and I've read a lot of reports all throughout the day. There's sources, website articles on what's going on with the Fed. I have not seen anything today, or really over the past couple of weeks, that Jerome Powell's considering resigning. But the chairman of Fannie and Freddie says he thinks they are. And maybe there were some sources that came out a few days ago that saw this kind of caught me off guard. I think a lot of people I don't think people expected an official director in the director where basically down 47% today, was a little bit green now. It's basically looking like it's going to close red. I don't know. Bullish or bearish? Bullish or bearish? That bullish the way to kind of factor it out is like it's bullish because whoever is going to replace Mr. Powell will be like a dud, right? They're going to be cutting rates pretty damn soon, whether it's Kevin Morris or Dissent or maybe. But it also makes you wonder how long arm the independent Fed. I get it, but still, it's one of those things that definitely makes me wonder kind of what's going on. So if Powell resigns, bullish or bearish? What do you think? Bullish or bearish? Now, it's way better than Trump firing him. That would be like the way in or the head of a body, the head of an independent body. But if he resigns himself, I mean, if you quit your job, you quit your job, right? At the end of the day, that makes it one way that Trump gets the pressure to stick. Now, one thing you could say here is that this is just going to make him. This is just going to make Powell even more. Like, could you imagine they're like trying to put all this pressure on Powell? I mean, one argument here is that there is no report that Powell and this guy's literally making it up, and he's making it up to try to create the pressure for Powell to resign. And if it doesn't work, what if Powell says, "Screw you guys, I have until May 2026. By the way, Trump is the one who right?" And then what if Powell hikes? What if somebody cares about August 1st? Powell says, "You know what? Yeah, just that would happen." Right? I don't know if this is going to happen. I know he has zero confirmed reports that I've seen that Powell is actually going to do. So this could be fake news, but this is the government that is so 68% of states are bullish. I think this is bullish. You never know. Markets across the world just might be uneasy if Powell decides to leave Trump, then again, where else is that? One of those things that we have to look into. Robin right here, 98. Robin was at 101.50. We're not going to get that 101 close. We're not going to get that. We have about 10 minutes left. And the reason for that, along with PayPal being down 5%, is because of this. This was the next headline that we had in the past 30 minutes. JP Morgan tells me that they have to pay up the customer duty. JP Morgan sent a memo to the Plaids of the world, I don't know if it's the Robin of the world, but there were some companies that were mentioned that Plaid is one of the companies a fintech that connects your bank account to a Robinhood or a Provide. I know Robinhood, I don't know what Provide does. And essentially they're saying that you want why do you not guys read more? You're gonna have to start paying. Provide maybe there's more on PayPal, which is why that one's getting hit 5.2%. I guess they were more they're more in an integrated fashion in terms of how much they connect to credit cards and debit cards from JP Morgan. But but for realistic, they work hard to so by margin. By the way, Google right here, pants above 180, 1.5. So, yeah, that's the headline that you pull these names down in the fintech space. I think it would be, at the end of the day, they probably got the price power, and they probably get that done. But realistically, I think a lot of these names are running too hot. And the market wants to come up. In this house, it's 5 today. That one gets filled up. That's what I actually that's what happens. That one got it. A lot of people are talking about Rockport. Rockport trade 5 down. That's very interesting stuff. Then NVIDIA did hit 157. That one filled up as well. 155 is what we got on in NVIDIA. Shout out to Nick. I worked that flash. That was a lot of people look forward to. Oh no, never mind. 6 billion. They raised on April 3rd. April 3rd, 6 billion. Oh, it's down from 13. Okay, so 2021 it was 13 billion. Now it's probably the healthy thing they had to do. So this one probably is 2026. That would be right. So those headlines, the big one is how important that is false. That will not have included. Let me see the probability on these September cuts. We've got about 8 minutes until the market closes. Steve will be on today. Just go with it. A lot better. And we'll get his thoughts on the market, try to get his Salesforce system. He can brag about XR. That. Probability for September cuts. 60. They went down, folks. They were at 64 yesterday. They went down.
This is Pod 5, the first fully purchased adapted. Built to give you all adaptive that fits onto any double when they're overheating or
there you go. That one is down. XRP right here, 284. Now, in the midst of all the volatility today, Bitcoin has held out. 118, still holding out. BFR. On PMNR, but you got Bitcoin staying a series as well. That's back to 2,000. The ambassador Google. Lovely. Very, very sweet. North and South. I appreciate it. Steve, thanks for the $5 step. Up for taking up look at this video. Colin Robinson, equal sign, like a 90s financial spot. So this one is a 1620 cylinder company, not a small cap, but it is a Chinese company. And look, it is what it is. The nature of things. It's not even it is by definition case, and you have to kind of live with the consequences of if it goes down. Same thing with BM&R. It's just the difference in BM&R, you're paying 10 times an app for their Ethereum, but also you're paying for a real business. It's just a question: do you actually care about the business when it drops and you want to add on the dip, or do you just feel like you're bad for the spot that? That just comes with the ultimate due diligence for why you step into the same. But again, the reason it's down, and Chris talked about it on the morning, is that they are not as established as a company as UNH. UNH is actually up on the day as the other insurance names go down because that's saying, okay, there might be some very elements to it that you build around healthcare in general, but UNH is so undervalued and they're so big as a company that we'd rather buy UNH. And the offer of lemonade to the world is all that. As a result, that either is an opportunity for both, or it's a fair case for those that feel that they're not the best. And over time, we're going to see how this turns out. Oscar's an investment, not the big. Yeah, I would agree. Oscar was a trade at one point, and now it's always been an investment. So I think if we buy Oscar, we're buying it for the long term. Buying it for a place where it's buying. Corey and Nappy is both also taking a meeting today. I didn't really know what the main headline was. Maybe people woke up and hardest idea. Not saying that they're a bad business, it's just that there's a lot of components to Corey that get away from by that NVIDIA. Nappy is right here, also down 4%. I think that's the small on Nebius itself. And then BM&R after the bell, we will talk about it. Tommy did another interview. Again, a lot of people just got into this name for his brand and for his technique, and that's fine. You got to break the whole thing. You are paying a premium against half of their Ethereum. We talked about it yesterday, but I just grabbed these. Look at the time. The playout is up 5x. You think that'll happen with Ethereum, but if it doesn't, that's what you're going to have. That's the difference. If it does, Ethereum goes well, then it's just a question of how well does beta play to it, BM&R do. That is strong. So, also, I just really think that's one public that is also. Before we talk about it, very successful IPO. It was up to 300%, and then it went up another. So, that one big profit in that sector.
Looking for nicotine pouches in Canada. More Canadians than ever are getting the pouches they want from Rush Tins. We carry your favorite brands: Zin, Bello, Sonic.
All right, folks, here we go. Friday. We also probably have a sell-off across the market because ending out the second. Thanks everybody for being here. We got a lot of headlines to talk about. July 11th. 7-Eleven. Huh. Should be like national. Anyway, July 11th, 4 p.m. Thank everybody for being here at the stock market. Now closed. I can make that joke. I'm Indian. And it's true. You go to a 7-Eleven, we're going to be there. We're going to be there. But we own the damn thing. We own the thing. There you go. Pounder, 142.05 on the day. Down about 3%. Robin, it had a beautiful day. 98.30 on Robinhood, down about 0.4%. Tessie, great day, 313, distinguished. The day before. AMD, great day, up 1.5%. SoFi gets another day, close above 21. Google finally gets above 180 on the close, not too bad. Grab closes exactly at $5. Good volume coming into Grab today as well, which is nice. Reddit right here, 146, that's up about 2.3%. Amazon, 224. Meta, 717. Salesforce, 257. That one down 2.5% of the day. Not sure why, but we'll have Steve come on to talk more about Salesforce. PayPal right here, 71. That got hit with the JP Morgan fintech, essentially new payment processing that they put out in terms of how they have to pay for customer data. Apple right here, 210. Elf was down about 4%. SMCI down 2.2. Apple 11 down 2.7. Circle down 7.5. Coinbase had a great week, touched 400 last night, but was down today. 386 is what we have on Coinbase. Let me bring up the stock draft and see how we ended out for the second week of Q2. I think it's not really going to change from what we had yesterday. So Matt's up 11.68%. Tanner's up 6.87%. I'm up 2.53%. Steve's up 1.4%. Chris is negative. So it's Matt, Tanner, Amit, Steve, Chris. Chris right now is negative. I think Google and Elf are the ones. Well, Google's good today, but Elf is mainly the one that's hurting him. And Novo. For Matt, Rocket Lab's been great. For me, Hood's been great. For Steve, Netflix, Microsoft, MicroStrategy has been great for Steve. That's been helping them. For Tanner, Apple 11 and Coinbase have been. Apple 11 has been the worst. Coinbase is them. And MGP. I want to open up a 7-Eleven, but I feel like I need to have a Dunkin' Donuts one. It's just they're not good businesses, bro. Like you have to put up $1 million up front, and then you have all this work to manage the business. You have to hire employees. You have to make sure the facilities are clean because you're dealing with food and coffee and all this stuff. And then you have to pay property taxes and the rent. It's like it's just aggressive, bro. Having these brick and mortar stores. So, but I feel like one day I still got to. I gotta have a Dunkin' Donuts. Got to have a Dunkin' Donuts. Imagine a market open at Dunkin'. Yes, dude. It'll be my Dunkin', so I can do anything. It'll be my Dunkin'. Dude, we gotta do it. All right, so we got a bunch of headlines. Steve should be on in about 20 minutes, and then we'll get through all of it. Here's the first thing I want to show everybody. Tom Lee did another interview today talking a little bit about what's going on with Ethereum. So we'll look at that in a second. Before that, real quick, Elon Musk and XAI. They are looking to raise at a $200 billion valuation. $200 billion valuation. This is kind of cool, right? Like XAI was worth $130 billion. They bought X for $45 billion. They've been making great progress on Grok. I think it makes sense that Elon's trying to raise that $200 billion. A, because you have tons of AI companies that aren't even that like good, raising at ridiculous valuations, and Elon's actually like building something meaningful with XAI. B, they just released Grok 4. And Grok 4 is better than supposedly every other model based on the benchmarks that came out yesterday. I know it's early, but still, I mean, if there was any time where investor interest would be ready to capitalize on a new funding round, I mean, I think if Elon, $200 billion is not, $5 billion, there's not maybe. There are definitely investors out there that would be willing to buy. And as a result, I think that's why it does make sense that Elon is raising at these levels. The flute guy that cited a source that cited him for the power reservation. Yeah, this one was actually hilarious. So the guy who's the chairman of the board of directors for Fannie and Freddie, so he's the one who came out with the statement that Powell might be resigning. And then the weird thing about it is he then tweeted an article that cited his statement, citing the source for why Powell is resigning. I mean, it makes you think that this is all, just like a joke. So again, he put this out, and then he retweeted an article from the street that says Fed Chair Jerome Powell reportedly considers resigning, but it's him who's the source, who's tweeting the source. So it's like I don't know, dude. It doesn't feel like it's real. I don't think Jay Powell's the type of guy who will tell you, he'll give you the middle finger. Jay Powell, he's a nice guy, but we've also seen him become a little raunchy and mean when he needs to be. So I don't think it's crazy for Jay Powell to say, just screw you guys, I'm going to say it's that care. And if it's fake news, maybe it's not, but ultimately we are going to find out. All right, here's Tom Lee today doing a little bit of some press on Ethereum, why he likes it, and ultimately what would be the logic behind the Ethereum treasury versus just Ethereum itself. Just all this stuff.
To me, is really going to be where Wall Street needs crypto, because that's where you're tokenizing.
The IO strategy as opposed to owning an Ethereum ETF.
When someone buys an Ethereum ETF, they're buying single units of Ethereum. And for as long as they hold that ETF, that amount of quantity of Ethereum is going to be distributed. Whereas the Ethereum treasury stock actually has a lot more optionality to increase the Ethereum per share.
Fascinating. Or even, I would say, probably than buying Ethereum directly.
Correct, that's right. You're letting an entity then try to help you acquire more Ethereum. And again, as these Ethereum treasury strategies get to become large parts of the Ethereum network, they're actually helping the ecosystem.
Another company called the crypto ecosystem is Microsoft, co-founded by billionaire entrepreneur Michael Saylor. It started as a business intelligence company and has recently become notable for its significant investment in Bitcoin. The other appeal too for people who sort of bet on Bitcoin and none of it's in the stock market. So anybody who kind of make that bet. Is that kind of what you're trying to do here as well, with people who sort of get exposure to Ethereum without maybe investing in it directly?
Oh, that's right. Michael's strategy is very unique because he has what I call a sovereign fund. He has 600,000 Bitcoin. He has so much Bitcoin that when the United States or Qatar or the UAE decides they want to get 1 million Bitcoins on their balance sheet as a nation, it's going to be easier for those countries to buy MicroStrategy. So he'll always put it in premium because if the US want to buy 1 million Bitcoin in the open market, what price of Bitcoin? So stratosphere. I think Ethereum has a Wall Street foot because as the Goldmans and the JP Morgans want to be big in the stablecoin market, they're also going to want to make sure that the underlying layer one is super secure. So as a public chain, they're going to want to own a large stake in Ethereum. So the Ethereum treasury strategies have what I call a Wall Street foot because they're basically moving in front of what Wall Street is.
So that's what he said today. Nothing too different from what happened yesterday. I think a lot of people are really confused on exactly what's going on with BMNR. And quite frankly, I think it's just because, again, no one really understood why they were buying this autonomous and very few people actually understood the strategy and the treasury, yada yada. But I do think there's a lot more people, either because they're tackled and they're forced to learn about what BMNR or because now that it's down to 140, they're saying, hey, maybe there's an opportunity here, and maybe this is something that I think it's a Ponzi scheme or anything like that, so if that's the case, I think that's a Ponzi scheme. At the end of the day, it's just a holding for Bitcoin that's using the key function there, not a currency there, but Bitcoin is there. You have a market that is thriving with opposite volatility that actually trades and heading for or against the way that they are with Bitcoin. I think the exact same thing for Bitcoin. Now, what's really important about this is that we don't have options yet on the BMNR. And I think when we have options, like sell calls, puts, buy calls, puts against it, that's when this thing gets very exciting. Because when you have the ability to actually trade options on BMNR, you are going to get tons of different ETFs, probably get levered against BMNR, and you're going to get a lot of call buyers and call sellers, which means there's going to be more buying of the underlying, which is BMNR. And as a result, that thing of itself is what leads to so much capital flowing into MicroStrategy because you have so many people that have to buy the actual stock for their option strategy, which would obviously be very bullish for the underlying. So from that perspective, that could be one of the things to watch out for. But this week was a horrendous week. 160 to 40 is a bit disgusting. And the question is just do you have faith in this overall Ethereum strategy? So far right here, 2130, Google. Don't really know why Google is up on today. I don't think there's a headline outside of like 3 different Wall Street firms again reiterating their $200 price target on Google, which is fine. I mean, it's Google. It's telling you to believe it's undervalued or not, but earnings is going to be the key differentiator to see if a lot of these companies are correct, or a lot of these firms are correct on their futures when it comes to Bitcoin. SBETS has options. That is correct. This one was actually up about 15% today. Yeah, 25%. So I think the options are coming pretty soon, and when it does come, a lot more people that are excited. All right, now here was something else that happened today. This was released about an hour before the market closed right here. We actually got a surplus, folks. We got a surplus for the first time in a while in the month.
Rick's just changed the web development game forever. You've got to watch this.
Hey, Kelly, always our best look at tariff revenue every month. But first, top line, it was a mixed bag this month for the U.S. Treasury. On an unadjusted basis, the U.S. government had a $27 billion surplus for the month. And this compares with about a $20.5 billion deficit expected among economists surveyed by Dow Jones. But then if you look at an adjusted basis, this accounts for standard calendar differences. Month to month, the U.S. ran a $70 billion deficit in June. So big difference there. Fiscal year to date, the U.S. is running a $1.3 trillion deficit, almost exactly matching its pace from this time a year ago. Then on the tariff revenue, that's the other key figure here, the U.S. took in $27 billion in June in customs duties. The category that includes all tariff revenue, so it's a little broader than Trump's tariffs alone, but it has been growing this year as the tariffs have kicked into effect. So far this calendar year, the Treasury has taken in $87 billion in customs duties, so that's roughly how much has come in since Trump has been in office. One final thing, Treasury is definitely taking in more in tariffs, but it's taking in significantly less now in corporate taxes. Those were down 17% for the month of June, and a Treasury official said that was likely due to anticipation of what they called preferable expensing and deduction provisions, including in Trump's mega bill. Guys,
that fact is something Brian Reynolds from the Market Watchers had picked up on. They're a little worried about what it could signal for earnings season. You also wonder if it's just a give and take, more tariff revenue, but a little less corporate tax revenue.
So we do have a surplus if you adjust it, but then if you do it on a month-to-month basis, it turns into a deficit. I mean, it's one of those things where even if the administration votes that we have a surplus and we have all this tariff revenue, what J-Pow and the Fed is worried about is, okay, what do we have to go through to get to that surplus? Because if we have to go through some stuff that wasn't good, aka inflation, which we're not going to see in the next couple months unless it pops up in the data, then that is the give and take that we get for having this surplus. So we're going to see. I mean, I think we get CPI next week. I mean, next week's a big week for data. We get CPI, we get jobs, we get PPI, PCE. So we're going to get a lot of data next week as we head into the second half of July. And it's pretty much going to determine, if we get that rate cut in September. We're definitely not getting it in July. And we all know that Bitcoin right here, 1.1. But we'll get that rate for September. Adder, thank you for the $5 super chat. I'm all in QQQ waiting to move to real stock because everything is at all-time highs, so I make the move without considering that I will enter at the wrong time. This is one of the hardest questions, right? I mean, like if you're all in the queues and you feel like everything's popping, theoretically selling now is maybe a better more sense. However, and also when you get into the got it last month, maybe you might be able to get another 5% just to get back to more sense. You got it years ago, you're up so much that holding on to the queues, you're probably not going to go back to the levels that you've seen a few years ago. I think, obviously, Chris talked about it this morning as well. There is some fraud that we're seeing in the market, but we're also seeing some of that fraud not that crazy. Circle, I think all of those got bought $50. Not there. It's at $187. BMNR was a little frothy when it got to $160 in 2 days after being at $4. So from 4 to 160, nice little 40x. Not there anymore. Back and forth. So I think from that perspective, you are seeing some of the fraud in the market as well. You still do have a decent amount in there. IWM, small caps are interesting. I've been reading up a little bit more on small caps. Again, the thesis on their relative earnings growth compared to the S&P is that they are going to outperform based on earnings growth. However, it's just, you really want to trust the small cap companies if theoretically there is a recession, but let's say that doesn't happen still. Are you more comfortable buying NVIDIA, Oracle, Meta, Amazon, Google, etc., or an ETF that has a bunch of small companies that have a ton of debt and that ultimately need rate cuts to benefit. Now, the rate cuts could be a tailwind for them, but if we don't get a lot of rate cuts, the companies that aren't affected by rate cuts, like NVIDIA, just feel like more safe than better. So I think IWM is fine. It's just how safe or risky do you want to be as we get into the end of the year. 4 million in puts spiked on the S&P just before the close. So I saw that option flow. Another option flow that I saw, which would be very bullish for all the Tesla folks here. Someone bought $500,000 worth of May 2026 Tesla 500 forecast. So you are getting Tesla options start to come back and be more bullish. That 4 million in puts on the S&P, I mean, still a little more than hedging. The S&P basically. I don't know. That's what we got. How do you see rate cuts impacting good? It could be really bullish. Again, I think some will go down to, I think, about 5 billion based on every 5 days. So if we do get a rate cut, take off 5 billion for top line, but you're going to get no trade cuts. So theoretically, both have to do well, or people should want to invest, or people should want to trade, etc.
We all need to monitor your environment, manage your stress, then perform.
Own and design studio. Beautiful design contracts. Realize you have to do a whole bunch of mappy business work before you can even start the numbers. Use QuickBooks to see the big picture. Use QuickBooks to manage cash flow. Add some more cash to your flow. Let QuickBooks do more of this, so you can do more of the things you love. Intuit QuickBooks. Man,
So lack of rate cuts is actually not bad for her at all, because they make money in both ways. But if you do get a rate cut, the premium you put on a growth stock in and of itself goes up, and then the premium you put on trading while lower rates. And the simple logic here is that if you have, again, $7 trillion in money market funds, and people want to take those money market funds out of getting 4% instead of 4.25%, they're going to put it into a Schwab, a Fidelity, a Robinhood, and they're going to trade, or they're going to at least invest. And as you engage in that process, Robinhood is what makes money from those businesses. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Now, if we get rate cuts because the economy is breaking, yes, that's not good for us. But that's not good for any company. So it's not really a HUD thing. It's more so going to affect every single stock. But yeah, if we get rate cuts because inflation's coming down, then that's probably a better way to think of it. Here are some of the headlines we had to end out the day as well, including some of the JP Morgan stuff and software stocks that have been underperforming.
Software stocks, because they have been under pressure this weekend. The reasons are just piling up. The equity ETF is down about 3%. There's particularly that hyper downgrading Workday. New CIO surveys, specifically ones from Morgan Stanley, that point to weaker IT spending. This, according to Jefferies, Broadcom CEO Hock Tan warned that AI could erode long-term software value, saying Broadcom won't pursue more software deals right now. You see the call. Datadog down 11.5%. Salesforce down 5%. These are just examples. A sea of red within that sector. And let's just go to the fintech stocks, because those also took a hit late in the day today after a Bloomberg report said JP Morgan plans to charge fintech firms like Venmo, Coinbase, Robinhood for access to their customer bank data. Some saying they've mostly gotten for free up until possibly now. And that's why you see shares of PayPal, for example, down almost 6% today. CoreWeave, another big name, dropping 9% after you pick it multiple downgrades earlier this week tied to this $9 billion deal for Core Scientific. Analysts are skeptical of the cost. And with the IPO lockup expiring in September, some investors may be heading for the exits a little early. Lastly, Kraft Heinz is higher today, closing higher on a Wall Street Journal report. It's exploring a breakup, potentially spinning off a chunk of its grocery business in a deal that could be worth up to $20 billion. That's why shares closed 2.5% higher, John.
All right, Christina, thank you. Meantime, bond yields rising once again.
So those are some of the updates around fintech software, CoreWeave, and the corresponding way that some of these names have been impacted as we get into the point of the year, along with that. This is
those stocks that's still out there. We don't look at Kraft Heinz that often, but what is, I think the reason investors buy this for the divvy, I mean, KHC, 6% yield, yeah, so that's why people buy bucks up versus the I was positive 6%. Never mind, down 11%. Yeah, this just wasn't one of those names that worked out at least. So I looked at Jenny. I've heard of this stock. This is essentially like this is your best way to buy the NFL without the NFL being traded publicly. Jenny, GENI, $2.6 billion company, they engage in provision of scalable technology-led products and services to the sports betting, and sports media industry. It also involves the sports league, which offers technology infrastructure for the collection, creation, and distribution of live data. They work with a lot of different leagues. The NFL is one of their biggest clients. I have not gone that deep into them, but I've heard of this one. Year to date, it's up 20%. A lot of people think it has a shot to break out. This is one that maybe will require a deep dive to get into it, but again, it is small. Not a micro-cap, but it is at $2 billion. So it's an interesting company, and I couldn't even tell you exactly how they aggregate and collect data to be able to feed to some of these major leagues, but that is essentially the business and how they navigate. SoFi right here, yes, getting some love, posted above 20. Surf Air Mobility also, I'm up 15%. I think this is just pure hype. I haven't seen it. Let me know if I'm wrong, if there's any headline that justifies Surf Air Mobility being up as much as it's up over the past couple of weeks. Outside of the short float that's high and a small number of shares outstanding, but it's up 117% in the past 6 months. It's up 250% over the past month. I don't know. This one feels like a lot of momentum. And by the way, we've seen this happen. We've seen it also come back down. Big Bear AI down today. Pumped up to 870. If you bought in anywhere that 7 to 8 range, you're back holding. Bought in at 5, which is not usually when people buy in. That's when the pump gets started, and most people get towards the end of the pump versus at the beginning, unless you're really good at this, which most people, including myself, are not. And then you have these things. Why is the share down 9%? I don't know. Why was it up 10% last week? I don't know. So they just don't know how it plays out. Yeah, so Palantir backing Surf Air Mobility is not the bull case for Surf Air. Like, just because Palantir is working with a company doesn't mean the company's going to go through this. Like, valuation, like what the company does, etc. Palantir might have an equity stake. But, unless they announce some major new deal with Palantir, which Palantir haven't done. It's great for Palantir because their equity is worth more, but it doesn't mean that this is a with Palantir. Palantir works with UNH as well. Good. Long term, UNH is going to do the Palantir software to cover them. It's good 400 small. So I think it's pure hype. I think it's just pure hype. Where is Soundhound today? The Big Bear fell 10%. Soundhound also fell.
There's a lot of sameness among online brokers these days. IBKR stands out in the crowd. We offer professional pricing and low borrowing costs. Our clients have the choice of investing globally or locally in stocks, options, futures, forex, bonds, and funds from a single unified platform. Our premier technology enables you to optimize speed and efficiency, perform sophisticated portfolio analysis, and manage your accounts. Start investing today at ibkr.com.
Yes. Oh, it's that stock that was up last Monday, or sorry, this Monday. That was up about 1.28%. I know, if people are interested in this, stickers will you in the video. Watch those videos. They're involved in a variety of different industries, particularly around data communications and telecommunications, along with developing and manufacturing different solutions for that industry. I think there's some use case in the semiconductor space for development along this. That stock right here is about 1%. Yeah, Sezzle is another one. Sezzle is a fintech, right? Not long. Sezzle right here. This one is down 9% per day. It's a payment platform that enables bank-to-bank transfers of money for consumers and businesses. This stock here today, wow. This and Dave are the two fintechs I think everyone missed. We were so obsessed with Hood and SoFi.
Dave is just Dave is just, dude, Dave is the best performing stock market we have right now. Dave stock. If you look at it, last year, 457%. Last 6 months, last month it's down. Year to date, it's up. This one has I don't have many things about ABCL. I'm still trying to work on that deep dive, but whenever there's a chance to do that, we will talk about ABCL and go deeper there. All right, we just set these at 5 minutes, so we'll be on in that 5 minutes. And we'll get it on. D-Wave, how did that one do today? Quantum, QBTS. With them, all right, so you got a little high base name. Okay, obviously the Robin, Hornet, they down a little bit to the 4 beta names. Got hit harder. Google right here at 180, SoFi 2130, and then NVIDIA did get that second day. Really $1 close. Here was Trump earlier this morning talking about look at you there. Some of the great fans. Maybe at some point I will, but right now I'm not. It's a little hard to hear. I mean, we kind of talked about all the core things anyway, so this one, I don't think we're going to get anything that new from it, but basically it's just, I don't know how we got to move on from there. This was actually the deeper headline that we saw today. I don't know how many people saw this one, but this one was also kind of a big deal. So, the FBI director and Longino is CNN right now to find out. Thinking of resigning based on the Epstein files. So CNN came out today and they said, hey, we have exclusive information that the deputy FBI director, if you remember this guy, he was one of the 4 people that essentially made a career. I mean, he got his name out there in the world for talking about how the tragedy is that Epstein stuff in that light. He was deputy. And you don't really have all the information around the Epstein files. So here's a little bit of that reporting. It's right or not, we'll find out what it is that after the eviction.
Joining right now on the phone is CNN anchor and chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, what more?
Yeah, Brett, it remains to be seen if he actually follows through with what he is Dan Bongino has told people he is considering resigning as the deputy director of the FBI over the fallout that has continued ever since this memo was released last Sunday. The anger in the MAGA base has only continued to grow instead of going away, as some officials inside hoped it would. And now our colleagues, along with Christian Holmes, Tanner and Brett, we're hearing that he's considering resigning after they had this heated confrontation with the attorney general Dan Bongino earlier this week. And basically there was a meeting at the White House where the FBI director Kat Patel was there, the White House chief of staff Susan Wiles. They were questioned about whether they were part of a story, and there was basically some infighting over how this came out, and this memo that said we're not going to be releasing any more information related to Jeffrey Epstein. And I should note that we are told Bongino denied leaking any story to outlets that reported on. There's been a lot of fighting between Attorney General Pam Bondi specifically and the leadership over at the FBI over who's to blame in this situation. I think the context here is obviously Dan Bongino, Kat Patel. They came from this MAGA world where they themselves pushed a lot of questions about the so-called client list that Epstein had beforehand, and now the MAGA base is just not pleased or satisfied with what they...
And this is correct. The MAGA base is very, very upset. If you listen to any piece of news, Fox, or networks that cover Fox, Newsmax, etc., they're pissed off. And part of the reason they're pissed off is, look, I think there's a list, and I would imagine it's pretty obvious there's a list, but if these guys didn't for sure know there was a list, and they basically built their entire public persona on, hey, we're going to get into the feds, we're going to get the list out. And then there either isn't a list, or they don't have the authority to get rid of the list because you got the big guys who are actually running the show saying, there's no way in hell you're putting that list out. That's going to piss.
With Adobe After That AI Assistant, I can summarize contact details in seconds that I can confidently explain it to both the buyer and the seller. AI Assistant helps me focus on what really matters, helping people find the place that they can call home.
A lot of people that obviously can create a fundamental fraction between how they rose to prominence and ultimately what they're able to deliver from the position of power that they're in.
They've said in this memo that came out unsigned from the Justice Department and the FBI on Sunday night. So what we are told is Dan Bongino did not show up to work today, that he is essentially there as a protest. But whether or not he actually follows through on this still remains to be seen. We're still reporting that out. But it just speaks to the backlash that the White House is very much feeling and understanding after this memo came out. Despite President Trump the other day in the cabinet room asking, who still cares about this? One thing we know is the MAGA base certainly does.
All right, Caitlin Collins, thanks so much for that.
I mean, it's kind of wild, bro. If I was Dan Bongino, release the list, and then you don't release the list, and Dan Bondi is on Fox News saying, yeah, I'm reviewing it, and it's just like kind of logical. Sex trafficking, like, presumably there are people that did the sex trafficking and that were involved in the acts, which means there has to be some list, some level of details that they can put out redacted. And every time they try to put out a list, it's always been redacted, which also proves there is a list. Because like if you're redacting something from the files they have put out, that's probably saying that the public deserves to know about. But we don't have that information. Dude, look, this week's been good for the markets, but this has been the single biggest problem I've seen in the Trump administration's 6 months. And every single person can agree. Hard to disagree. No matter how much you support Trump, no matter how much you love him, no matter how much you agree with the MAGA base, it is really hard to justify not voting for this. And it makes you question what the hell is going on. And, here's a good point. I heard this today. I haven't said this at all. I'm curious how many people thought about it. I'm curious how many people thought about what I thought. Why isn't any high-ranking Democratic official using this moment, this fumble, as one of the biggest things they can use to shame the Trump administration? I don't see Chuck Schumer. I don't see AOC. I don't see Nancy Pelosi. I don't see Mamdani. I don't see anybody on the left side, which is supposed to be against Trump, using the most obvious fumble of this administration, which is not releasing the list, and saying, hey, I don't even see a single tweet from these guys. And they're quick to say anything about Trump. Why are they so quiet? Like, has anyone thought about that? I heard that today and I was like, like, you have every single news outlet, Tucker Carlson, you have all the independent media influencers talking about what's going on. Is this a conspiracy theory? We need to go into it. But you don't have the other party that they salivate for any little news. It's the proof that Trump is the most evil person in the world, he's a horrible president. If his base is pissed off about this, and it's to their advantage, it kind of feels like both parties are heavily implicated in this. And as a result, no one wants to bring attention to it. One could argue that the Democrats are happy that Trump's doing this because now, eventually over time, it'll be helpful to put it. And it's one of those things very, 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 but it makes sense. If both sides are in it, this is probably the reason why we haven't had details for the past Trump 1.0 and then Biden on any of this information. So AOC did tweet. Okay, I didn't see AOC's tweet. But again, AOC is not really being Democrat. So it actually makes sense that she would tweet about it. But the other ones, Chuck Schumer's, the Nancy Pelosi's, they use everything to get upset. Yeah, you're right. AOC did use it. Okay. So, and then that makes more sense. She should have. But the other high-ranking Democrat. I personally have not seen anyone step up.
Oh, shit.
And that's probably because in Biden 1.0, they have the opportunity. They didn't. So it's sad, dude. It is very, very sad. And I hope the story doesn't die out. I hope there are people that really. I hope there's some whistleblowers, quite frankly. But then again, if Dan Bongino becomes a whistleblower, I mean, the part of whistleblowing is you're putting your own life at risk, right? Because they killed Epstein, and he comes out and he starts blowing stuff over. Those are the things where the public would love to know, and then also individual people that do know might not ever say it. Which is the sad part about this. All right, let's listen to Dan Ives talk about NVIDIA and Jensen, who was at Trump's White House yesterday, or last night, and we'll get some analysis there from NVIDIA. Steve should be going in a couple minutes, and then we'll get.
This is Pod 5, the first fully immersive sleep system for intelligent.
Series Managing Director, Global Head of Technology Research. Dan, it's good to see you, my friend. I love the look today, Dan. It does look like you look like you have interrupted me. So I'm gonna get through this interview. We're gonna get through it real fast. I feel like you got places to go. Let's go with NVIDIA. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang is on the way to China. We know that he can't sell his latest, right? And it's costing his company a lot. I'm curious how you think this all plays out. Does he get Trump to reverse course? Does he find a workaround? What do you see ahead?
I mean, he's not going to the White House just to have lemonade and fun. I mean, the point is our view that the restrictions when it comes to China, a lot of that ultimately will, in some extent, be lifted where NVIDIA can sell their chips into China. Remember, I mean, they're not going to just give $8 billion a quarter to Huawei in a silver platter. And it's all part of this negotiation that you see. But there's only one chip in the world fueling the AI revolution, and it's led by the godfather of AI, Jensen NVIDIA.
If he can't sell his latest and greatest in China, Dan, how does he make that up? Could demand from the sovereigns, the Saudis, the UAE, could that make it up?
Well, that can make it up. And I still think the Street's underestimating growth by 20-30% next year. But you do not want to give China just a way to Huawei. They know that continues to be the biggest market incrementally that they're going after besides the U.S. And it's all part of this negotiation. You cannot just hand out business to Huawei. And that's why it's all part of this high-stakes negotiation.
So Jensen met him last night. We're in China right now. And hopefully some progress on whenever this eventual China deal is officially signed, export controls go away. And if they do, at least they get eased up, then obviously that could be a massive tailwind for NVIDIA. I mean, if we can get to $4 trillion without China revenue is very low. We can get it back.
There's only one chip in the world that's doing it. And Trump knows a big corporate chip that he has in negotiation is NVIDIA.
I'm sure there are some viewers, Dan, this week when they thought they could get that milestone, right? They might have thought, hey, I just might get this is my opportunity. I know it's still different. One person gets even higher.
I think I can and it's not you. We're in a golden age. I find NVIDIA going to take it to the end. We're going to let Microsoft.
Stupid. That was stupid.
Let's switch gears to another name I know you like, Dan, and that would be Tesla. You like the name. You don't seem happy with Elon Musk and how he's spending his time. He's right back into politics, right? Full speed ahead. He's going to create this American political party, this new political party. You laid out changes you want from the Tesla board, Dan. You say new pay package for Musk to 25% voting control, guardrails for the amount of time Musk spends at Tesla, and oversight in political endeavors. Does any of that actually happen, Dan? What odds would you give it?
Yeah, and obviously Musk didn't like, my what we laid out. I believe the odds of that happening are ultimately, to some combination, more than 50%. in terms of that, and especially when it comes to 25% voting right, when I've used an XAI merger, to me that is ultimately sort of the next stage to where we see this all headed.
I have to ask you, Dan, only because we're showing the post there. When you lay this out, Elon Musk says, "Shut up, Dan." So the owner of X, on X, guy's worth $400 million, tells you to shut up. You saw that, Dan? What did you think and feel when you saw it?
Look, I mean, I knew Elon, and knowing that 20 years and following how somebody is such a big sport, he wasn't going to like it. But again, friends could disagree, right? And so hopefully,
Are they friends? Elon and Dan's friends? I don't know. I don't know if they're exactly friends.
we were able to work out our differences. But as one of the biggest supporters of Tesla, we needed to do that. Given our view, that's what the board needs to do to ultimately move this forward. Tesla's going through the biggest stage of growth ever in autonomous and robotics. Much need Tesla, and ultimately the biggest asset.
All right, so that's Mr. Dan I speaking about Nessie.
We all knew who was here. Powerful performance.
Personalized coach. Gotta get someone on the show, folks, who, he's already smiling. He knows. He knows I gotta do my intro. I don't have an intro song for him, so I gotta do a little intro. 408 Thomas. Appreciate it, 408 Thomas. Yeah, look at that. We got all the caps locks in the chat, all the exclamation points. They know who's coming. I don't even need to do an intro, to be honest, because he's here. It's been 5 days. Had a throat infection, whatever it is. Back. Not sick anymore. He looks healthy. He looks good. We're happy he's safe. Mr. Steven Field.
What's going on?
Dude, you didn't shave over.
Dude, I freaking lost 10 pounds.
I can tell. You sound good. You look a little roughed up. I can tell.
Freaking just started eating again 2 days ago.
Dude, you grow up for years?
Yeah, I haven't shaved in a week. This is what it looks like.
Like, I want to see you with a beard.
Nice. No, she well, I got
First of all, okay, how long? Everyone has seen this. So how long?
good. And thank you, everybody, for reaching out on Twitter.
They care about you. They need to make sure you're alive. Give us all the information.
Great. Your buddy says actually that phone call was very interesting. Your buddy Alex from Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And he asked good question, right?
Russian. He asked me to come on his podcast next Friday. And he just told me that the entire wholesale market has got price increases. And this is wild. It's crazy. And I was looking at some of the boxes I put in. I put a couple of boxes they're already up 50%.
Bitcoin running.
Crazy.
Who's the other
person? Buddy out, and then my other buddy was the sports party. Mark is so crazy. He's a sale. He doesn't have a shop right. He's got somebody to buy. And he just had a 5-figure private sale.
Well, you got a lot of markets that are moving up and down. A lot of people got
I was at a rate. There was a lot of people there. I definitely pick something up that. That's all.
All right, well, we got a lot of topics to talk about. I will be linking your Seeking Alpha articles right here in the chat. You can check them out.
Oh, link the Cisco one. Listen, don't sleep on Cisco. I'm probably the only person that's bullish on Cisco.
Oh wow! Look at this dude. I don't know if you saw this. You just had a strong buy. Some guy above Bay Area ideas.
Don't know who you don't care about. Don't care who they are. And for them to put sell, it obviously or I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to much. But you know, it's still generally the
Are you not enjoying being up thousands and thousands of dollars?
Looking for nicotine pouches in Canada. More Canadians than ever are getting the pouches they want from Rush Tin.
But this is, you know, I know they've done a lot of stuff out there now. But this is one of the stocks you wrote about, like $7, and you had $50 to the arm right. You've been
Look, I'm not on it. I'm happy to still get way back company and you're still annoying. Don't have clarity. Don't have clarity about the issues. And if you don't have clarity on that, and you don't have a vision on that, very important is anything but and quite honestly, if I want to buy my institution,
what if this earnings, by the way, Dougie, thank you, 5 gifted. What if this earnings is big
how is the only place in the world and stop let's not forget that City Group was up 31% and last year paying let's not forget. So there are other financials that are doing well. May not be doing as well as SoFi, but JP Morgan's up 37%.
Before we get to Tessie, Lydia, you were one of the main contributors. I didn't know you were the only contributor on my channel outside of Canada. There's a podcast that talk about a video, but you were like calls in every week. You were the only person who called into my channel that was pounding the table on NVIDIA. You got me to buy a lot more of it as well. Well, Fortnite affiliate.
Go video. I think we're going to be, I said it before, I was saying that, right? All about these targets, and I do think maybe I have to do it. Maybe it's really
yeah, I mean, and if it does get to that 200, 220 range, we're talking $5 trillion.
We're going to do all 20-year trucks.
NVIDIA, past year they're up 30.
So,
130, you could say.
And think about the earnings calls that we've had over the past year. Blowout earnings calls. And it would just do nothing. Like, finally, this is where it should have been.